we talk about that famous orchestral hook in Take Me to the Pilot with Elton John's former guitarist, Caleb Quaye. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. Anyone who's heard Take Me to the Pilot will remember that orchestrated hook. Dun, da, 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 da. You know, it's just monstrously big. And Paul Buckmaster had a big part in that, as well as producer Gus Dudgeon, and of course a guy named Elton John. We talk about that with Caleb Quaye. That's you on Take Me to the Pilot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's like when the orchestra chimes in. Are you playing along with the orchestra? Dun, da, 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 da.
Right. Yeah. I overdubbed it. That was Paul Buckmaster's idea. Yeah. And actually, in the documentary, we interviewed Paul before he died, and he talks about that very thing.
What chicken or the egg? What came first? Was it Paul's arrangement?
Oh yeah,
okay.
It was Paul's arrangement.
Yeah.
Because
that's an I mean, I know the world is full of campfire songs now, and everything's a freaking campfire song.
Yeah.
But back then, it's almost like artists were more selective. They wouldn't have an album of 10 campfire songs where you couldn't help but sing along, and it was an earworm, and it would drive you crazy. But that arrangement, dun, da, 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 that's that's a hook.
Well, that was Paul. He wrote that out, and we recorded. We recorded the rhythm track. He put then they put the strings on, and I was there for that, and that was all done the same day. And then Paul came back. He says, "You know what?" He says, "I'd like you to double that line that they're playing in the solo. So could you do that?" I said, "Sure." So that's what I did. When you talk, it was the first time. I think it was the most that had ever been done. A lead guitar was doubling an orchestra, note for note.
Let's start with the documentary. I know we touched on it last time. It hadn't happened yet, but how did this all happen? How did this? I mean, your story's amazing because the story where you talk about being on tour with Hall & Oates and you have that moment, that was incredibly popular with our audience because it touched a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So how did it all start?
You mean the documentary?
The documentary, yeah.
Well, I got hold of this gal, Valerie Tucker, who is my manager. And she's also the producer and director of the documentary. Mm-hmm. And so at the time when we hooked up, I was just looking for somebody to help me get some gigs with my band, with my jazz group here in town. And so we connected, and I'm trying to remember what year it was. It must have been like around 2007, somewhere around there. And so we started doing gigs at the NAMM show and stuff like that. And I already had my book had already been published, my autobiography, which basically serves as the script for the documentary. Yeah. And so, and people have been saying to me, this book should be a movie. It should be, blah, blah, blah. So I presented that idea to her. Now, she happens to have a background of 25 years as editor for Fox News. And she's won, 9 documentaries, nine Emmys for documentaries.
Wow.
Yeah, she's very good. So so she thought about it and prayed about it, and basically God told her, I sent him to you so that you could tell his story. So that became a mission in her life, So we went through the whole thing of, we submitted it to various companies and this and that. And we either got turned down or it was like, well, it's good, but we want to change this, want to change that. And it got so frustrating that I just said one day, we used to have these regular breakfast meetings at this restaurant called Mimi's. And one day I just said, you know what? The only way that we're going to get this story told is if we tell it ourselves. That's how it started. So no budget, just a whole lot of faith, and people just, getting involved because they thought the project was worthwhile, so camera people, what have you, So that's how it started, bit by bit.
More from Caleb Quaye coming up next week. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. And buy a t-shirt, help support the channel. There'll be links in the description of this video. I'm John Beaudin from Rocky Street Music.